My name is Counselor Rudd. We have Counselor Allen, Counselor Bay, Counselor Hudson, Counselor Thompson. This is the budget hearing for information technology. And we have Dave Proack here to jump in. Last year we did a basic description of what each department does. This year I'd like to change it a little bit. If you, to the extent you have a major accomplishment from the fiscal year that's wrapping up for the year, if you would just describe it. To the extent you have a major goal for the upcoming fiscal year for the budget that we're talking about, if you could describe it, that would be a great jump off.
I'll start with the latter in terms of some goals for us, both for the current fiscal year and for the next fiscal year. We anticipate a number of large upgrade projects. We have some Windows 2008 servers. That license for Windows servers is end of lifing in January. So we're looking at upgrading 40 to 45 servers in this time frame. We've started as of actually a couple of weeks ago on a pretty aggressive project plan to have it done by the end of this calendar year, not fiscal year. So those are server operating systems that need to be upgraded. In addition, we'd like to speed up our implementation of Windows 10 at the desktop level. We were a ways into it, but we've got quite a bit more to go. And we also have an Office upgrade in waiting office as well, because we're currently on Office 2010, and we need to make a big move forward on that.
So 40 to 45 servers, how much does that cost? Where is it?
That's anticipated in my current budget. There's not a carve out just for that. We do a certain amount of, we've adopted a plan where we do a certain amount of upgrading for our infrastructure every year. So some people want to do a big lift where they ask for $300,000 or $400,000 one year. We do it incrementally.
How many servers are there?
Probably 90.
So you're replacing half of them, and they have a life of what? Like, how many years do they last?
Typically 4, 5, 6 years. And some of them get aged out operationally too. As we change software vendors, we don't need that server anymore. But yeah, we have 47 2008 servers. We're not going to be upgrading all of them. Some of them will go away because their usefulness is no longer needed. So, but we have a pretty aggressive plan. We've already started working on that. And once again, we do incremental upgrades to our server and network infrastructure every year. So my capital ask is pretty consistent. I know other folks do it differently, where they'll ask for huge numbers every X number of years. We do it a little more methodically.
So how many servers did you replace last year, or this current year?
Yeah,
Is it like half the number? Is it
no.
fewer?
That's fewer.
So I mean, you're kind of describing a lift, right? In the next year, even though you said you do some consistently, you're identifying a lift.
But that's true. But the lift is in terms of software licenses. It's not in terms of hardware. Hardware we buy incrementally. We have a computing environment up there that gets very technical. It's called vSAN, whereas we add to it every year. We just we buy a server. In fact, we're doing it right now. We do it in May or June every year. So every year you add to your platform and you add to your capacity. That's hardware. All right, this lift, if you will, is strictly software-based that we're going to be concentrating on this year, both for Office, for the Windows desktops, and for the Windows servers.
Okay, so just the goal, the accomplishment, if you had, just before we get too far from that, what would you say is a big accomplishment for the current year?
One big accomplishment, and it's not going to get a lot of applause, but we migrated to a spam filter in the cloud. This is after having an appliance on site here for probably 15 or more years. We now run it's called Barracuda Essentials. We run it in the cloud. And that alone is that was a good accomplishment, but it gives us much more capabilities, both in terms of our ability to archive email. We're being advised, we're required by New York State retention law, we need to archive emails for a certain length of time. And also having the spam filter in the cloud gives us additional capabilities in case there's a disaster or in case there's a disaster. When we had everything on site here, something goes bad here, something goes bad with our electrical grid here, we're down. Now that we have the spam filter in the cloud, we have additional capacity to give people access to their emails. And we're actually building on that. We're talking to Microsoft about having a full Exchange availability in the cloud as well. So that was a little bit behind the scenes. It took us a while. It was a big change in technology, but we got that under our belt and we're moving forward.
So before we open it up, I went back and watched last year's budget hearing because I feel like that's going to be the efficiency of our investment in these cameras. So a few things, if you just have short answers. The website redesign, what's the status? That was the thing last year. I think we thought we were going to have it done.
Yep.
What's the short answer status?
The RFP has not been released yet.
No RFP. So the goal is to have the RFP done and then to have it rebuilt when?
Counselor, I'm not doing the RFP, so
You
I
don't
can't
do it,
speak
okay.
specifically to that.
Do you have any sense of timing once the RFP is
I
taken care
thought
of?
it was going to be released in March. It's, as far as I can tell, it's imminent. There were some final questions that were directed my way about some capabilities, but I'm not authoring the RFP.
Yeah.
And I believe it's ready to go. Budget, has the RFP for the website redesign been released?
So Ruth Mangren, Director of Communications and Marketing. So the RFP is imminent. It's in the legal department, just going through some final reviews. We anticipate it should be out very shortly. Afterward, we expect to get to through phase 1 of the design by the end of 2019, and I can go over the actual project plan with you at another time.
Thank you. Was there any movement on the new city line? Like last year in this hearing, there was some discussion of we might look at city line having a new system. Is that nothing? No movement. We're just
I'm not trying to punt on everything here, but that
I'm not trying to
yeah.
This is
I believe the I team was working on that.
okay. So is it? We'll ask the I team. You were involved with the internet. I mean, you've been doing these internet connections that have been coming through, and that helps with the payment systems, right? Like us collecting credit cards and all of that.
Yes.
I feel like that's a good accomplishment. So I would
Yeah,
applaud you for.
that's been we're busy up there, so, and I wasn't prepared for that question. Perhaps I should have been. I've never been asked it in a budget hearing before, so I just picked the one that was the most technical.
No, I know.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
first to go, and
Yeah.
I didn't tell you in advance,
Yeah.
so you did good.
Thank-
But I'm trying
So,
to give you a.
Yeah, you're
credit
throwing me
where
a bone
it's
here.
due.
No, the credit cards have been, this weekend they went live with the Parks sign up, and the folks at Parks just deserve so much credit for instituting that. We've been in a supportive role there. They did over $19,000 worth of business in a few hours on Saturday, and people were not queued up in a parking lot like they used to be. We did roll out, we accepted credit cards for the short portion of the season at Clinton Square. We started that the second week of January until it closed. So we have a large plan to roll out credit card acceptance throughout the city. It's going to be it's not going to be a quick project because there are all sorts of different use cases, from the golf course to downstairs where we collect millions of dollars downstairs across that countertop.
Okay, credit cards. Good job. Keep going. Delinquent taxes. Last year we talked about having 2 systems to do it. Do we still have 2 systems?
We do.
Is there any effort to not have 2 systems?
Yeah, there is, and that project's a little bit stuck in the mud.
Stuck. How do we unstick it? Like, what is it?
I'll get that done.
Stuck?
We have the two parties that are involved with the delinquent taxes. We have a PO for both of them. It's a small amount of work, and it slipped, I believe, on both of their accounts. In fact, there was an email thread on it a few days ago just saying, where is this? Why can't we get this over the finish line? So we'll see that it gets done.
Kronos, payroll with the county, any movement on that? What's that?
Yeah, that's exactly where it's been for the last 3 or 4 years, waiting for a boatload of money to make that happen. But the counties and the
So this is probably in line with the boat. The boat might be with the money on it, could be with the financial restructuring board, that concept, right? Is that we would
yeah,
ask.
I
and then
believe
hopefully
that
do a
I believe
bulk
that's
purchase
anticipated
with
when I
county.
had my interview with them. We spoke at length about the project plan for going with Kronos, and then with payroll with the county. It makes tremendous sense. It's I don't want to say it's a no-brainer because it's going to cost in the millions, probably $3 million or more.
Right.
But we need to do something.
So we need somebody who can go get the money so we can make the investment to be able to operate more effectively. And until that happens, we're stuck on that one.
And we're stuck with a couple of legacy systems that are
The part you said last year that was interesting that I think makes the case for Kronos is you talked about they had just bought a company that specialized in first responder payroll, which I
Yeah.
think we very badly need.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
I would
they-
just reemphasize that the savings that could correspond to this $3 million investment seem large, and we should probably do whatever we need to do to get partners to help make the investment so we don't stay stuck for another 4 years. Those are the main things I had noted. I'm gonna leave questions, and then I'm gonna reserve the last 5 minutes, or when people are exhausted their questions, to ask you where you would, if you had a 3% cut, what would you do? Or would you rather us pin the 3% cut blindly on your budget? So that's just to have.
You're gonna
I'm gonna
ask
ask you, if there was a 3% cut, where would we take it
an
from?
additional
But
3%
I'm gonna
cut.
give you can think about it in between while they ask
Okay.
their own questions. So I'll open it up.
So can I,
Counselor Thompson.
no,
yes,
no, no,
sir.
I wanted to ask you, you're saying 3% above and beyond?
I'm asking him, if the Syracuse City Council put a 3% cut on everybody, where would he take it from in his department?
Okay. Go ahead. No question, okay. Thank you. I'd like to ask you, first off, did you ask for any additional personnel in your budget that you were denied?
Yes.
How many and where?
Do you have money to give him for more, or you like? Because I think we're almost in the mind of we probably need to take less.
I'm
Yeah,
asking
that's
the
fair.
question.
Yes, sir.
So,
Counselor, I asked for a, it's kind of complicated what happened. I asked for one position to be upgraded. So I have a network administrator. I have an anticipated retirement coming up in the next few months. And I'm going to, that position has been upgraded to senior network admin. I had hoped to maintain the network admin position, so have both a network admin and a senior. The network admin has been removed. Now, when I say removed is, it still shows up on my civil service roster, but these positions are unfunded. So there's been some shifting up there. I've got a longtime employee who's really valuable, who's retiring. We really need him to come back part-time, and he's gonna come back part-time. But I'm afraid with just one network administrator, I'm coming up with some contingency plans. I really feel like we could probably use 2. But, you know, this is a hard budget, and this is a stark reality facing all the departments, right? And the cuts that I was asked to make, I'm not unique in this.
I understand.
So-
So just tell me what the cut was and how much was it?
I would argue for, well, I would argue for 2 positions, another network administrator, and also we were unfunded in the position of enterprise functional lead, who works on PeopleSoft. We have a significant investment in PeopleSoft. It's the core system that runs our financials. We need more really, really good PeopleSoft functional people, not less.
I could get a dollar value.
That's probably $75,000 for each of those positions. 70 for one, 70 for both. That'd be $140,000.
Okay.
If I had a
And
wish
my
list.
last question is on PeopleSoft. The 2 contracts are what? Is that $250,000? Is that, am I correct, or am I reading this wrong, or?
No, we have an IMA with the county for $125,000 a year,
Okay,
and I'm actually gonna be filing paperwork that needs to be renewed just because it's sunsetting.
and then it says software networking consulting too,
Yep, that's another separate vendor that we use for $125,000.
and that's all that we spend outside for PeopleSoft?
The first $125,000 where we use it with the county, yes, that's PeopleSoft. The other $125 is not PeopleSoft related at all. That's just general consulting with our servers and our storage network.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Vossler, since this is the first budget hearing, try to set tone, can I ask you one question about the process? How did, at one point you asked the departments for what they need, right? And they gave a response, and that response was, as I understand it, like a 17% increase above
So
the previous year?
The process starts in December when we roll out the Hyperion software system to all the departments with a budget letter asking, giving a couple items that we are hoping to, not accomplish, but, we ask them for their new positions to be approved prior to submitting their budgets. They get 8 weeks to do the budget. It comes to our offices towards the end of January, and then we work on that for the next six weeks with the departments. We have meetings with them. We have meetings with the administration, and
So the initial response from the departments when they're asking, that was what percent increase from the previous year, do you know, roughly?
no, I don't know. In this budget, you have all those settled labor contracts too. So
Right,
that,
well, I think it was relatively high, right? They asked for more, and then you guys have already whittled them down to some extent, right? Like, they ask, and you guys say, no, that's too much, you can't have that, like, Dave didn't get everything he wanted. That's common.
working with the
across
administration,
departments,
in the mayor's office, things were cut down, yes.
Right, so every department, I believe, will have Dave's context of having been whittled down to an extent. And I personally think we probably have to whittle them down more. And I don't think that asking every department, what didn't you get, unless it saves money, unless we're like not investing in something that would save us money or bring in more money, then I don't think we need to frame it so that it looks like the mayor has already done enough, because I think we need to do more. But thank you. Other questions on IT?
Yes. Hello, sir.
Counselor?
This microphone doesn't seem to work too well. Either that or
Here. Oh, it came undone.
I got it. Just seeking some initial clarity, page 95 in the book under contractual and other expenses, operating supplies and expenses, that's 54,0500. Fiscal year 18 versus fiscal year 19. So you got actual and adopted. And just for sake of conversation, can you explain that for us?
So I've got the account number that you're asking of.
You don't have it? Do you have the same thing we have?
I don't have the page numbers.
All right, under fiscal year 18, actual has 396,530. Under fiscal year 19, adopted, it has 667,664. And so what I'm asking for is an explanation on actual versus adopted.
For going back to 18?
Yeah, just to start.
And then it goes up to 700.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, it's $175,000 of that is the website cost, so that brings it up to, then there's still about an $80,000 or $90,000 gap there.
So we already spent money on the website?
Well,
no,
the question I'm asking, what I'm trying to get clarity on, actual versus adopted. Actual seems to imply what cost is. Adopted seems to imply what you were allowed. Am I reading that right?
Yes.
All right, and that's a difference of 271,000 if we round it off.
Yep. So one of the deltas is that there's a line item for $175,000 for the website. That's in the fiscal year 19 adopted. That was not in the fiscal year 18 actual. It wasn't there at all.
And so the 271 was used, the additional 271 from the actual. So when you say what was added in fiscal year 19,
Was $175,000 for the website.
so that's 396 plus the 175, you're saying?
And so the delta we're still talking about is about $80,000 or $90,000.
That's unused to date? Or does that roll back into the general fund?
If I don't spend it, it goes back to the general fund.
But currently it's still in your fund.
Yeah.
Right. I was looking at the audit, and this is in the letter to, the management letter to the city, page 2, under internal controls, operating cycles, under one comment. It talks about the fact that, in fact, I'll read it, the city's accounting system is not fully integrated, includes many features which operate independent of the general ledger.
Many features that operate at a,
Independent of the general ledger. This includes property tax, payroll, and MBD. And so I guess my question in that respect is there any idea what those three different services cost, and can it be determined, or maybe if there's a savings or potential for savings if those systems are integrated?
so I haven't seen that letter. That's from the most recent audit?
Yeah.
Has that been, I don't think that's been released publicly yet, has it?
I don't know if we got it as public, so I don't know.
I've not seen that, and that speaks to the accounting system, so I'd be venturing a guess.
Understood. Couldn't we give consideration to the fact that integrating these systems, and this is their recommendation, that it could potentially save us some costs on operating system?
And one of them was the property tax system?
Property tax, payroll, and MBD are not fully integrated into.
So I can speak to two of them in general. Payroll, per Councilor Rudd, that is decades old. It runs on the back of a bunch of programmers that have a lot more gray hair than anything else. It's an antiquated system, and since the day we got done with PeopleSoft Financials, I said, we need $3 or $4 million, and we need to do something about an antiquated, inefficient timekeeping system and payroll system. They operate independent of each other, the payroll and timekeeping system, and are they integrated with the financials? No. So we need to upgrade those, and no one's denying that. There's some optimism that the result of the financial restructuring board may provide the funding. That's what I've been told. But that needs to be done desperately. In terms of the property tax system, we're going to be going with a new property tax solution. We anticipate going live this coming January. Then that system would be ripe for integrating it into the financials.
Okay.
Right now, as we're spending our effort trying to get there, to address the lack of cohesiveness with the financial system, is not time well spent. And I'm not sure, NBD may refer to, NBD has a separate accounting system. I think they're talking about Macola. That's what they're talking about, yeah. NBD has their books are operating, they're not on PeopleSoft. And we probably ought to look at doing that.
Yeah. And so I probably should have started here, because I'm asking you because this is all listed under IT. It may be a broader question that requires answers from some other people.
Yeah.
So, I certainly don't want you to
Fair enough, Counselor.
feel like you have to wear it. There's also a comment about the fact that our tax software operates on two separate systems.
Yep, and that's what we're addressing. We've been working all year, and we will and we anticipate going live with a system, it's the same tax system that all the villages, towns, and the county uses.
Right, but I want to be clear, so it's not assumed that I'm re-mentioning what I already stated. Our collection for current taxes versus collection for past taxes, two separate systems.
Today, yes.
Right,
When we go to the new system, no.
right, okay. The next question I have is relative to page 3. I don't know if this question is more for Mary or if at least the consideration is more for management and budget. And it's in reference to county purchasing and the fact that the county purchasing process, the city has no oversight on county purchasing. And I know we try to function on the honor system, but we had an issue before with our abstract and some phantom costs on our abstract a couple of years ago. And I'm not looking for an answer in regards to that. I'm just kind of stating the fact that we probably should provide some oversight on county purchasing to assure that the accounting is as accurate as it can be. It's just something we should consider heavily.
Point, the abstract is totally separate from the
I
purchase department.
understand what the abstract is.
Okay,
I'm saying we had a similar problem on the abstract where we had concerns about being double charged on the abstract, and this was about 3 years ago, maybe 4, myself, Kathleen Joy, Nada Maroon, and the auditor. In fact, the auditor and the comptroller did a report discussing this much. I only mention that to say it's not unheard of that we'll be charged more than we should be charged from the county. No offense to the county. Anybody watching? So there's a need for oversight there. Also, this is on page 3, still on the internal controls, and again, my apologies because you can't view it. This is in reference to, and maybe someone else in the audience can answer, retainage releases. And for this is relative to capital project funds. Real quick, retainage liability should only be recorded as a liability in capital project fund at the time the project is completed. And so the question is relative to the fact that the audit shows amounts that appear to be retainage releases in excess of what's required, or in excess of what the fees actually are. And I guess I'm trying to understand, why are we paying fees in excess of what we actually owe and retainage payable? Anybody know the answer to that? It's under IT, that's why I'm asking it in this hearing.
That's under IT?
It's listed under IT.
I also think we're gonna have a separate hearing.
Well, the point of the question is the fact that we have too many redundancies. We're wasting a lot of money, and we're paying people more money than they actually owe. Yet, we're looking to raise taxes on taxpayers where we're not efficient in our own house. That's the point I'm getting to. And I believe through some reconfiguring, we probably can find some money laying on the ground, which we tend to do every time we get an audit. And that's, again, not to you, but I'm just kind of putting it out there. Are you?
Good point. Councilor Green, do you have anything? Councilor Allen, Councilor Hudson, President Hudson.
Yeah, I do, Dave, thank you. I'm gonna go back to the question that I asked for a couple years, the systems that we have. I know we have BAS, AS400, PeopleSoft. How many systems do we have, and how long before we'll be able to integrate all of these systems together?
So that's a very broad question. We're working on, for example, we have 2 tax systems. The flaw in that ointment has been, everyone's discussed it, everybody agrees with it. By January, we're gonna have one system. It's gonna be the same system the county, the towns and villages use. That makes sense. We have a separate payroll and timekeeping system that's antiquated. we need to get that upgraded into one system. Makes sense to do it in partnership with the county. It's a $3 million ask. Crystal ball to have everything integrated, that's a huge, that's a huge ask. I don't know. That's a huge ask. It's a huge ask if you had all the money in the world to do it. Those are really big, huge, the scopes of those projects are enormous. We don't have all the money to do it. So we're trying to pick out the ones with the biggest bang for the buck, like payroll, like integrating a new tax system with PeopleSoft, the things that are called out regarding our financial controls. But to integrate everything, and I don't know if there's such a solution that will integrate everything. The city's a big business, and you're not gonna have just one system that does one-stop shopping.
But my concern is all of the money that we've put into PeopleSoft.
Yep.
There is no way that PeopleSoft would be able to address a lot of these different concerns, even down to the parking tickets, because I have an issue with that as well.
Yep. So, well, PeopleSoft, Oracle, the company that owns it, they don't make a parking solution. They don't make a parking violation solution, all right? We have a really good one. It's a local company. They're downtown now. They moved about a year ago from the suburbs to downtown. We have a really solid solution with Ames. Oracle doesn't make a parking violation solution. So it's never gonna be just one. It's not gonna be like going to Walmart where you can get tires and groceries in the same spot.
Yeah, but I understand that, but the point that we're making is we're investing millions and millions of dollars, and we're still antiquated, and we're still behind, and we're still being asked to invest million more of dollars.
So towards that, I can tell you, we've spent nothing on our payroll system in 20 or 30 years, outside of the staff that runs it. We've spent nothing upgrading a timekeeping system. We haven't spent dime one.
Right,
The
because we're still
timekeeping
using
system.
paper.
That's right.
That's because we're still using write-in.
Yep.
So one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know we have, how many systems do we have? Fast, PeopleSoft, AS400.
Yep. Well, even the AS400 within itself, that's just a name for a piece of hardware. That has a number of systems. On the AS400 runs payroll, timekeeping. All of our water billing is on the AS400. So to answer your question, at the macro level, probably about a dozen.
So we're over, but last question. So of the 3%, if you had to take a 3% cut, I'm sorry, but we're gonna run forever. If you had 51,000, 1.7 million, what would you do? What finger would you cut off? Where do you think?
Do I have to pick it right now? Listen.
Well, I would like you to have a reaction. Yeah, I mean.
So here's my reaction. IT has always been asked to do more with less. And I'm not saying that makes us unique versus DPW or any other department. Okay, once again, we're all facing the same fiscal climate, all right? If we're asked to do that, just like we were asked to take the 2.5% and some of the positions didn't get funded, then we're gonna find a way to do that. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I don't have a pile of an extra 3% hidden somewhere just in case somebody asks me to get rid of it, right? It just,
All right. Thank you.
okay.
With that, we'll go to the next hearing. Thank you for this one. We got Department of Assessment up next.